Hey guys, David Robinson here. Welcome to the apartment investing journey. As always, we've got
Mm.
another great episode and another great guest for you today. I'm really excited to have Kerry Faix with me on the show today. Kerry, how you doing?
Good morning. I'm fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful. I appreciate you coming on and sharing some time with myself and our listeners here. A little bit about Kerry. She is a real estate investor and chief operating officer and founder of Stone Bay Holdings. With extensive experience in building companies from the ground up, she owns and operates a $350 million plus real estate portfolio, which she oversees the operations of. She has partnered on the
Mm.
purchase of a 27,558 unit apartment building in Georgia that sold a little over a year later for $41 million dollars. And her most recent accomplishment was partnering on a $75 million apartment complex in the same area. She is passionate about helping others achieve their dreams and build their
Hmm.
businesses. So, Kerry, obviously, I always say this is a very short bio. There's a whole story behind that bio, and that's really what our podcast is all about, is sort of exploring the journey that you've been on over the years. And so, if you don't mind, let's back up. Let's talk about some of your background and how you even got started in the space, and we'll take things forward from there.
Awesome. That's wonderful. It's actually fantastic because my business partner and I, we neither of us went to college. I was taking college classes, working my way through college, and got pregnant with our first child. I have four children, four adult children now, and so God had a different direction and path. College was something that was very important to me, something I wanted to do. I was working full time, going to college at the same time, so got pregnant, was like, all right, put that aside. Luckily, I was working in operations. I went to PNC Bank and they didn't hold me back from having a college degree. So I just kept working my way up the ranks. My husband and I always had an interest in real estate investing. So years later, I was pregnant with my third, quit my corporate job, and we started doing flipping ourselves. We had a construction business all the while. So while I was working corporate, I was running a business and started raising a family. So as probably some of your women listeners might be, we're very good at multitasking, even though my favorite book, The One Thing, we're not supposed to multitask. Reading that was like, but how do I not? So luckily we're able to kind of shift and have a lot of things going on in our heads and kind of keep track of a bunch of things. And so fast forward to the recession of '08 that like rocked our world pretty hard. I that led me to eventually meeting my current business partner, Steve Lloyd, and we started Stone Bay Holdings, a real estate investment fund. And we were doing mortgage notes in the beginning in 2012. We were doing those. We still do mortgage notes. And we were doing some private lending. And probably, I want to say 5 years ago, we started also putting money into apartment syndications with two strategic partners of ours. And that has led to an incredible opportunity for us. We got into the space, I believe, before it was really the it thing to do. Lots of people, it's the buzzword right now, who isn't talking about apartment syndications and being in some sort of apartment investing. Everybody is trying to, in the real estate realm, trying to find either you're doing 4 unit, 5 unit, 10 unit, 50, smaller, whatever. Um, we've worked our way, our strategic partners, into the big boy realm, I guess is what you might say. What you said in that bio are our most recent. In February of last year, we purchased a 977 unit apartment complex that was a $75 million purchase. So, what I want your listeners, what I hope they just heard in that short little clip of my story, is that you don't have to be highly educated. You don't have to know everything and anything to be successful in anything that you do. We're here talking about, multifamily investing, but, my message goes to everything. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're good, find your superpower, find what you're really good at, what you're passionate about, what fuels you. And education, people have disabilities. We can have all sorts of excuses, things that hold us back from really achieving the goals of our dreams, and don't let that. And that's what I think as we continue to talk, maybe will unfold, and you'll start to learn about me, and hopefully people when they're listening will be inspired.
You Well, absolutely. The story at a high level is definitely inspiring, and I want to dive into a few aspects of your backstory. You started that flipping business, you and your husband. I think you mentioned you're still working a corporate career, so life. You have
Mm-hmm.
3 kids, 4 kids. Your life is hectic. You mentioned recession of 2008 hits.
Mm-hmm.
What's life like working through that recession in 2008? And why did it lead to the new partnership with Steve?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just walk us through that because I think there's probably some insights to glean from that experience.
Sure, yeah. So at that moment in time, my husband and I, we had a very successful contracting business. So we were doing high-end basement renovations and additions and things like that. So we started flipping ourselves, I think I want to say in like '05. And so we had done some successful flips. We weren't doing our construction business was it was a great complement to what we had going on. So we were doing one project at a time. We were also doing our construction business projects, and things were really wonderful and happy. We had 4 children, and it was life was a handful. Things were great, and it was a really happy time. '08 hit, and really '09 is what really started to rock our world. And so we were in the process of one of our flips. Our construction business had come to a screeching halt. All of
Mm,
our clients, nobody was doing work. um, so it was just a really scary time in our family,
hmm
right? So thankfully, the wisdom I give to everybody too is have 6 months, have something set
hmm
aside for emergency savings. Now, this was a nice little negotiation between my husband and I about how much money should be put aside, as any of these your married couples can probably relate to. And we were, like probably some of your listeners, putting all of our own money and capital into everything. And so that's how we were funding our flips. And so the flip before this is kind of where I felt like the Lord was saying, hey, keep something aside for, when a dark time happens. And so, the positive side of all of us wants to go, nah, nothing's ever going to happen. Well, you know what? Lessons learned, when is always going to happen. And so not being prepared for it is what really would have taken our family out completely. So we had some money set aside. And so while that's occurring, we're in this recession, we're using our savings to continue to fuel. We're in a flip project, and it's like, my husband cut his thumb. And
Mm,
we had employees, but it was, pretty serious. We were uncertain for a period of time whether he was going to lose it. He had major surgery done to it. It kind of stalled our flip project a little bit too. So we're kind of at that uncertain time. I felt that we talked about it, felt that I should go get a job in the
mm,
midst of this. So we did. I had 3 job offers. The one I ended up taking was with Partners for Payment Relief. So they do
mm,
mortgage notes. And so my business partner now, Steve Lloyd, was one of the founding partners of PPR also. So we formed a nice close relationship. And we ended up, I had left PPR and we started, he was doing flipping and developing student housing down by Temple University in the Philadelphia region. I live in the Philadelphia suburbs. So it was a good fit for what my skill set was in doing. And we started our own property management company with a few other partners. And that then led into the creation of Stone Bay Holdings. So the message there, and I'm glad you asked, is that I wasn't working. I'd been home for 12 years. I was out of corporate. I was completely my own boss. You know what? You got to do what you got to do. And
hmm
there's a lot of people that are too prideful that go, I'm not going. They hang on to the bitter end. If I hadn't done what I did, I wouldn't be where I am today. And seeking, direction, seeking for me, it was listening to what God was leading me to do. and so grateful and thankful. And like I said, too many times, people are in a rough patch and they're not willing to do what's necessary at the time. And good things come of it sometimes.
Well, I appreciate you giving us some insight into that, time period in your life and how you navigated it to a certain degree, and ultimately how it led to a very successful business partnership. Let's talk a little bit about formulating partnerships and relationships that have led to
Mm-hmm.
your success. Clearly, your partnership with Steve Lloyd, your business partner at Stone Bay Holdings. You also mentioned that a big part of your business is connecting with what we would call sponsors or strategic partners.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe talk to us a little bit about relationship building in the space of real estate investing and what kind of impact that's had on your business.
Relationship building is really what it's all about. That's what Stone Bay Holdings is. So it starts first with relationships with our investors. We don't have anything if we don't have our investors. So Stone Bay, our fund, we really treat our investors like their family. So we would do a Christmas party every year, and it was great in the beginning. We started it. We were like some startup businesses. We were working out of the basement of my business partner Steve's house. So I remember one of the first Christmas parties we did. I invited a few local investors, and I'm like, "Hey, come on over. We're just having a little Christmas celebration," and that went well. Then the next year, we invited everybody, and the house was full. And then we ended up getting into our own. You know, we have our own space and outside of the house. And then the party was too big even there. And then we were at a restaurant. So, sometimes people are like, these are my babies. These are my investors. I don't want my investors talking to each other. Bad things happen sometimes, or they might hear of a different investment and then I lose my investor. We have never felt that way. We are like, what? We're a family. Families get together. And these are people that didn't know each other outside. They don't live in regions near each other sometimes. And it became just something that people really enjoyed doing. The pandemic, we haven't been able to do it for the last 2 years. So that's where it started. So it starts with your investors and having a relationship with them. My Steve does that. Like, it's funny when we with our investors, he is like available 24/7. And some people have tested him on that. They're like, text him like
Mm.
really early in the morning. He'll be like, look, he's usually awake. He's a real early riser. But so many people, all they do is communicate through email or things like that, and they're not hands-on. They're not talkable, approachable. Through the pandemic, we called every single one of our investors and had a phone conversation with them. There aren't a lot of
Mm.
people that do that. So that's the first relationship that we really invest in, and we want to make sure our investors know we're there for them. Any questions they have, they're free to call me. They call Steve. They call our staff. So from there, I have to have something to do with the capital that's raised. And so that's what we do. We invest in strategic business partners, is what we've developed a team of. And so, David, it's not something that comes easy. It's a courting relationship. You kind of get to know each other. Anybody that we've done any investing with doesn't happen after one meet. You could approach me after this call and be like, hey, Kerry, here's something, would you like to partner in on this? I wouldn't do it because I don't know you well enough. We've got to get a feel for each other, and see your track record and your history and things like that. So it's a relationship that builds over time before Stone Bay does anything with a strategic partner. So, and it's investing in those relationships is important too. You got to spend time together. You got to have conversations to get to know each other before you're ready to pull the trigger on an investing
And
opportunity.
and you mentioned, you have a fairly limited number of strategic investors that you'll work with.
Mhm.
Maybe just talk about how you connected with those individuals and how the relationship grew over time to a place where you did feel comfortable
Mhm.
participating in their deals and partnering with them.
So I don't know, dig meetings. Like now there's meetups. There's you go to various investing seminars throughout the country. Right, there were so many opportunities to go to different seminars to learn about anything to do with real estate. So we would attend those, but really it started at the local level, going to the local digs and, kind of things of that avenue. And it's through there that you're talking to people, you're getting to know each other. And then the next one, a few months later or whatever, you see each other again, you're watching how, what their track record is, you're talking to other people about them. So never miss an opportunity. One thing I love, I have 4 young adults, so I'm very passionate about talking to young people, um, about being successful in life. You never know who's watching you. You're always being watched. Now we live in a world of social media where, that's probably the first avenue people are going to discover who you are, right? What does your social media say about you? So, but what do other people say about you is so important also. So it's not too hard in this social media world to puff our chest and make us look like I'm super successful, right? But what do other people say about you? And that is more meaningful to me than what you say about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so, you mentioned that at a high level that, going to meetups and connecting and those relationships sort of build organically. Is there a strategic partner? I guess let's just use who you've worked with the most in the multifamily space. How did that, maybe just do a little brief case study on how that relationship grew? Was that a relationship that was built out of going to a meetup, or was it found somewhere else? And how did that? Were there any tips, tactics, strategies that you might be able to share with our listeners to build a relationship with a strategic partner like that?
Well, it is. So one of our partners, Chip Lever, Steve was in a network marketing company, and so Chip's wife was doing it also. So he had met Chip through there, and so they kind of knew each other from afar. They both knew they did real estate investing, and so it was just kind of like watching from afar. And then one day, they're out at one of those events, and they're like, we've got to do something real estate wise. But again, it took a really long time. It's just kind of watching from afar who you are, what you're doing. And finally, an opportunity came up and Chip was like, hey, I want this might be the great opportunity for us to do an apartment syndication together. And so we did, we got started with it. Brian Adams, another guy, same, not network marketing, but he was in the real estate realm doing stuff. And what I want to tell you is that get on Bigger Pockets. There's so much education there on Bigger Pockets. Like engage in those things. Seek out somebody who's doing what you want to do. So if they're doing it on a high level, follow that person. Read what they're writing, watch their videos, kind of start to engage with them, comment on them. Don't be afraid. So many people want to give back. They want to help other people that are just getting started. So if you start to build a relationship, go see when they're there, right? If somebody's speaking that's in that space that you want to do, right? Go see them speaking, reach out to them. And that's how you start to build that relationship. So this real estate conference that I was just at, Collective Genius, there were a lot of people there. There are a lot of wholesalers, but they're looking to get into the multifamily space. You've got people that are in the smaller scale multifamily that want to get into bigger multifamily. That's what you do. You go to these events, you seek out somebody who's doing what you want to do on a larger scale, and you start to build a relationship with them. And what does everybody say? It's not about give, take, take, take. So when you meet these people, you're not just a sponge going, give me, what can I take from you? But you're investing in the relationship. And that's the best thing that you can do. Try to forge something in a relationship with this person. And so sometimes you're paying for coaching. I totally recommend doing that. There's so much that you can learn through coaching and mentoring. And then what I think some people end up doing is that leads to other people that you can do business with. So there's so many connections. It really does grow organic, but you kind of have to be purposeful about it. Seek out somebody who's doing what you want to be doing on a larger scale, and it blooms from there.
Yeah, love it. Well, I want to get a little bit technical here, granular, and talk a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about, your superpower, which you and Steve are fantastic at raising capital. You've built up an incredible network of investors who trust you to help them, invest in quality opportunities. So are there any systems or pieces of technology that are critical to your business to help you manage the relationships that you have with investors?
Well, this is going to sound silly for the size of company that we are, but I will tell you, this is the most important thing for Stone Bay. I know it's going to sound
For
silly.
for for those for those of you that are just listening, Kerry just held up her cell phone. That was it, just the cell
uh,
phone. So yeah, go ahead.
you know what? I know so many people build their business differently. That's just the way we've built ours, was through the relationship, and for people being able to text, call, pick up the phone. They know they're going to get us. Think about how many people invest in a fund and they're talking to, a customer service rep that knows nothing, taking a conversation, pass you to the next person, pass you to the next person. No, you're getting Steve or me when you pick up that phone and call us, and we're getting back to you, very quickly. You're not put on hold 24 hours. We'll get back to you. So I know it sounds silly. So the other thing we've done is we've custom built our own CRM. And what that has done, that's been critical to the scalability of what Stone Bay Holdings has created and done. So in there, we have our investors, all of their materials are in there. They're able to, we're still working on, they get statements that show how much money they've gotten year to date. We're looking to continue to develop it. They will be able to interact with it and invest through it, see all of their documents and things like that. But those are critical pieces. Your systems and your processes are of utmost importance for scalability to anything that you do. If you have a small scale company business, you're using Excel, you're using normal Microsoft tools that are out there. They're not necessarily scalable, and so there's a lot of different on the multifamily thing. I couldn't talk to. I know there's a portal that our partners use that the investors go
Sure.
direct to it that interacts similar, that works great in the apartment space.
Yeah.
But we've custom
So
built
with
ours with our
so
investors.
so with having, participating in not only apartment syndication but private lending and mortgage note investing, your CRM had to be a little bit more customized because you're handling different types of processes for each type of investment, I'm assuming. And so you
Mm-hmm.
built that out specifically for your business. Whereas many of the listeners, there's portals available, there's CRMs that they can use that are sort of out of the box ready for an investor to be able to manage those relationships. Okay, I want to start winding down here a little bit. I've got a few final questions for you, though. The first
Mm-hmm.
question I got for you is, what's one thing that you are challenged with in your business right now? What's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now in
Mm.
your business that we could all learn from?
Actually, sitting on too much capital. So our bank account has too much money in it right now. We need to deploy it. And right now the market is just so hot. We just put an offer in on an apartment syndication, an apartment, and we lost it by $4 million. So what people are paying for things right now is just crazy. We all know that, right? So what I appreciate, our partners, we're all in alignment. The deal has to be right. The numbers have to make sense. And if the numbers don't make sense, you put the offer in on the number that makes sense to you. We don't have to have a deal. And so you're probably going to ask a question. I'll tell you that we're about to probably have even, not probably, we will have even more money, more capital to deploy. It is a problem. That is our biggest issue right now. So our investors, we want to do the best for them. So it's trying to find investments that work, right? That it's just not worth putting it into something that we don't trust and know. So that is our biggest challenge and struggle right now.
Yeah, that is a problem, especially when you're having some big wins and big exits that bring the capital back, and you got to figure out a place for it to go. But I
Mm-hmm.
love the discipline and the mindset of staying disciplined. regardless of what's going on around you. The challenge is, actually doing deals, right? I was listening
Uh-huh.
to another conference the other day, some of the speakers on a panel, and there was one speaker that, had been in the market for the last 2 years, or excuse me, had sat on the sidelines for the last 2 years saying, hey, we're at the peak.
Mhm.
We're at the peak. I'm sitting on the sidelines and waiting for the market to correct. Another investor said, I've been active for the last 2 years and has made a grundle of money and made it as investors a grundle of money. So
Yeah.
there's difference in perspective, and so it is a challenge to navigate that, staying conservative, doing the deals that make sense to you in that moment, but also playing by the rules that are out there in the market today, which are people are paying more. And so I guess what I would say, I think this is a good transition to a deal that you've done recently, which I believe is
Mhm.
this 556 unit C class deal in Georgia. Can we talk about that real quick?
We can. I think you might be yes, because that's pretty awesome. Also, the deal that we just did, that one we did in 2017. Yes, let's talk about it
Oh,
because I think
gotcha.
your investors would be very interested, and I can just touch on what we have going on right now too.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Well, yeah, let's talk about this 556 unit deal that you did a few years ago, the one in Georgia.
Hmm.
Maybe just give us a high level overview of that deal.
Sure. So we purchased it in May of 2017 for 27.5 million. It was the $10 million capital raise. We needed 2.5 of that capital raise for capex. We ended up selling it in July of 2018 for $40.8 million. Yeah, y'all. $40.8 million. And what was that, like 15, 14 months? So
That's
in
incredible.
that, it was one of those deals, it shocked us. It was not something we were planning when we bought that. That was the biggest deal for all the strategic partner team that we had, and the plan was 3 to 5 years, sell it for about the $40 million range. So someone came knocking to the managing partner of that apartment syndication, and he had built a relationship. Again, it comes back to relationships. He was known, brokers knew him, knew what he was capable of doing, right? And that's how this deal came about, because they were like, we think you might be ready to take down a bigger deal. And so here we did, right? We took down that bigger deal. It's again the people that you form an alliance with, right? He couldn't have done it by himself. We came in, we brought Chip in. So the three of us collectively did it together, and it turned into this successful home run 14 months later. But what I will say is that when somebody came and knocking, asked if we wanted to sell, we were like, no, wasn't the plan, right?
Mm.
So you start, as they keep coming back, going, you sure? You sure? We started discussing it. The market was just starting to really heat up at that point. That apartment has since turned over again, and somebody,
Mm.
like you just said, still made a boatload of money. So could we have held it and made even more money? Look, all of us have to take times and go, does it make sense for me right now to take some cash off the table, redeploy it? That investment, we sold it in July. What was it? July of 2018. It took us till February of 2021 to find another syndication of that caliber.
Mm.
So look, we were on the sidelines, but being on the sidelines, David, you know what that being on the sidelines did for us? We purchased a $75 million, a 977 unit for $75 million last February. Started in 75 million. It was a $38 million capital raise.
Hmm.
In the summertime, the knocks started happening. Not even 6 months of owning the project. And we're like, oh my goodness, this is absurd. Really? No, no, no. We don't want to sell. We don't want to sell. And so, I don't know, a few months later, the, we all started talking. We're like, well, do we even really want to like entertain this thought? And so we started figuring out a number. And so right now we are about to have under contract that apartment complex for $165 million.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That's
So
incredible.
it, you can't script these things. You can't make them up. And so that's what I want to tell you is that you don't know what deal what's going to turn to be that grand slam for you.
Yeah.
Keep doing, apply the principles that are your principles. That's what we do. We know the numbers, we know what makes sense to us. We were figuring for both of those, we were going to have them for 3 to 5 years. It's just the market shifted and changed, opportunities shifted and changed. Do you capitalize on them? So, stick to the numbers, stick to your formula, be willing to pivot and change. We were willing to sell. It made sense for us at the time. This one makes sense for us to do. And I promise you, the big wins are there. Don't seek them out. They will happen to you when you apply, keep being steady and true, doing the same thing over and over again. Stick to your formula, and big opportunities will find you.
Well, that is a great note to end on, that inspiring little speech that you gave right there. But what an incredible journey, right? Going from flipping houses, well, working in the corporate career with a young family, in addition to the corporate career, flipping houses on the side. Recession hits, you have to sort of pivot and figure things out. You make the tough decision after your husband, has an injury on the job to, hey, I'm going to go back. I'm going to do what's necessary. I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'm going to go back into the corporate world and do what I need to do for my family in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
That opportunity or that decision led to a relationship that has grown and fostered over time. It's developed and has created opportunities for you to be involved in deals of massive size, massive caliber, from 40 million, 50 million, and now a $70 million deal that's potentially about to sell for almost double the amount, I believe is what you said. So
Yes. Yeah.
incredible journey, incredible story, and very inspiring. And I love just sort of the mindset that you have of, hey, just keep working, keep plugging away, keep doing the things that you need to be doing on a daily basis, and those opportunities will show up. Well, look, we've got to let you go. You've got other things you got to run off to today. But before I let you go, the last question I have for you is, what's the best advice that you have for someone who's just getting started in this space? I know you shared a lot about getting started, building those relationships. Anything else you'd share with our listeners that are just getting started in the multifamily investing space?
Get started. You know what? If you are a person that for me, I am very analytical, and for sure would have let analysis paralysis really scrutinize something to probably a degree that I would miss out on things. Steve is a jump, leap, figure it out afterwards. And in the time, all these years that we've known each other now, he's sometimes had to drag me along. I've had to hold him back. And now we meet in the middle. We're so quick to meet in the middle now on all investment opportunities. So I would say to you, think about who you are right now. So wherever you are, if you are a person that's afraid, fear holds you back from stepping in. Find somebody that's not fearful, that will help balance that out. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's a friendship, it's a strategic partner, whatever it is, but find what's keeping you stuck right now. Too often, so the advice is get started, right? Find what's holding you back from getting started and see what you can do about that. So maybe you're somebody that you just haven't found a deal, right? You keep putting offers in, keep putting them in. Don't give up. Too often people are 3 feet from gold. That's a great book, right? And so they give up when they're right around the corner of finding that ideal investment opportunity or that ideal strategic business partner. Keep planting seeds, keep doing the work, and don't give up. And if you are lacking something, find somebody that's going to complement you. You don't need, if you're, I'm more on the administrative side. I love the operations side of things, right? My Steve Lloyd is more out there. He's personable and he loves to be, kind of out there and big, larger than life. And so it's a great marriage, business marriage, because we complement each other. We're not doing the exact same things. And so too often people are short-sighted and they don't want to share, right? I have to have it all. And same thing on these apartment syndications. Bring in somebody else. Yeah, you're going to have to share some of the profits with them. But look at the wins that come out when you're willing, when you don't have to have it all. And that's just another little kernel. Too often we just think we have to do it all. We want to keep it all because it's more money for ourselves. Let go of that thought. And that has been probably one of the best things that's happened for Stone Bay is we're just a percentage of bigger things. And it's tenfold changed our lives.
Yeah, love it. Well, Kerry, I have enjoyed our conversation, hearing about your journey and the successes that you've had along the way. Before I let you go, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, learn more about what you have going on, and participate in potentially participate with you in a deal in the future?
Great. Definitely, you can follow me on Instagram. You can Instagram is a great avenue. LinkedIn, and then Facebook. Not quite. Facebook is more personal to me, but for sure, Instagram, LinkedIn. Reach out to me. I'd love to hear how you're doing. If you go to my website, that you can download a free copy of my ebook. I like to, if you want a copy of the actual hard copy book, you can get it there, and the proceeds go to a charity that I'm passionate about, Bold Hope.
Cool.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me. Build a relationship. That's what it's all about.
That's
Love
right.
to do that.
And we'll have links to Kerry's contact info in the show notes. So if you enjoyed the conversation we had with Kerry, if you're inspired by her story, and you want to connect with her, go down in the show notes right now, click on one of those links, and connect with Kerry and her team. Kerry, again, an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing your journey with us, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank you. It was great being on the show. Thank you so much.